Next thing I looked up, it was 7 o'clock this morning.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
no.
Ran home, took a shower, and
It's a hard way to start a day.
Yeah,
supposed to show me like three
making
miles.
a change
Made a difference.
It's just that we want to make sure that I was 18, probably Monday.
I can't see them. So I have asked for access and it will be granted very soon. But
The time's 10:15. As we're really not negotiating this morning, that's why we do not have the city recorder in there. So this is strictly a kickoff. We're going to go through the negotiating teams, ask a couple of questions, give you an opportunity to share thoughts with us, and that'll be pretty much it this morning. Obviously, John McKinney, Assistant City Manager, lead negotiator for IUPA for the city on behalf of the city.
Sharon Kranick, the HR director.
Carly Meek, Assistant City Attorney. And the State HR Generalist.
So on the city side, Jared, Candace has been brought in. She's going to be our official note taker, so that help expedite after meetings, getting the summary of minutes completed and distributed.
Ted Kurtz, treasurer.
Jared Alivasados, president, IUPA.
William Harrison, board member.
Michael Lambert, attorney for IUPA.
Kyle Totten, business agent for IUPA.
So one of the things that we want to make sure that we get on everyone's calendar is the fact that if we go and look at our city council meetings. So as it's scheduled right now, we talked about this prior year, Jared, as you'll recall, we wanted to try and make sure we have the monetary items completed prior to the maximum millage being established by city council. That's currently scheduled for July 18th. Okay?
Okay.
So what we would like to try and do is that working backward from there is try and set meeting dates on either Thursday or Fridays. That's convenient for us simply because our Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesdays are pretty much scheduled with various city required meetings. It's hard for us to get out of. And I also don't want to have to try and shoehorn you in between, mandatory meetings. So our Thursdays and Fridays are very good. Basically, anytime after 10 o'clock on Thursdays, and then all day Friday for the most part, we're good. Either Candace or Monica, Candace will send out an email of what we already have scheduled so that, you can see, we can get you in there. We've already met with PBA and IFF, so they've already set several days through July 16th. July 14th. The other thing is we'll be sending out because all articles are open this year. We will send out a copy in Word of the contract with all of the last couple of years of MOUs so that you have that. All we ask that when you go through there and you start bringing, items that you're tracking changes. So that next meeting, we want to be able to start showing it on the screen right here, everything, so that as we go through points, we can do comments, whatnot, share it back and forth with each other.
Okay.
As I stated before, this contract's all articles are open. I will come up with a schematic to share with you so that it lists all of the various articles. If some of the articles you're telling us that you don't want to review, you have no questions on it, or we don't have questions, we can just, kind of already close those up. We don't obviously TA anything that we're not changing. So we want to kind of go through those as quickly as possible for both of us. Obviously, you're going to want to go through the items that have a fiscal impact sooner than later, and we wish to do the same thing as well, so that we can start planning accordingly. I believe you and I are already good on this one, the communication between the city and the unions. I know we set you up for teams last year. I've used you as a model with everyone else. And so we're moving along that lines. We want to, no texting between us all through teams. That way, so if I know you're my primary point person, but if any of your other team wishes to communicate, I just ask that you all have teams added as well. If IT gives you a problem on doing that, please just let me know. I'll make sure it's added.
Okay.
The biggest thing is that we want to make sure that we cover with you the expectations of these negotiations. I can tell you that we met. We had an executive session a couple of weeks ago. The council has shared with Sharon and I what the primary goals are from council, and I can tell you wages is one of them. So we want to just see that which way y'all would like to go, so that we can make sure that I share with council y'all's expectations sooner than later. Other than that, I don't, that's what I was looking for here. One of the things that I know that we have outstanding with Chad Little, and I need to follow up with him where he is, because remember he told you and I 30 days after will be Monday.
Right.
So I've not heard anything from you.
No.
Okay, so I will follow up and CC you, Sharon, regarding that. So for everyone, reminder, last year when we did the line of duty death benefit.
Right.
Well, before we got to the line of duty death benefit, we had started down the road between, doing some pension plan improvements.
Right.
And looking at the cost impact. The city council came back and says, well, we're willing to look at these. IUPA said, well, okay, if the city's doing these, we'll pay to have these other couple of items recosted. So that's what we're waiting from Chad on what those 6 items are, or the cost impact. The good news is as a reminder, the city council has always stated when funding of the pension plans are at 80% or greater, we will look at pension plan improvements. The IUPA pension plan is, well funded, or it's not IUPA, but the police officer's pension plan is at 87% funded. So that again is something that we're going to be looking at as an enhanced benefit this year. So, that's a strong area that we will be negotiating. Talking about the line of duty death benefit, I know that Jared and I spoke about this 2 weeks ago. That is in the hands of Chad Little, the pension plan actuary. We submitted to them well over a month ago. The right after it was approved, the MOU, which included the ordinance, draft ordinance, and we're simply waiting on them to give us the cost impact. We cannot take that back as an ordinance to the city council until we have that cost impact. As I relayed to Jared, that is not a city trying to make a change at all on any of what we agreed to. That is not the purpose of the delay. I know they had to meet with me, what was it, a week ago, Tuesday, you weren't here? So yeah, a week ago, Tuesday, they had several questions regarding what the benefits were. So we went through the 3 points. Chad and Karen seemed very assured of what they, which direction they needed to go to cost it out. So again, I'm waiting on Mr. Little to get that back. I've asked them repeatedly that I would like to get that on the April 18th meeting, but I would need that by next Tuesday. So now that will have been 2 weeks later. So I've reiterated that numerous times to them of what's needed. I know that I, stood before the police pension board back in December and said that you and I were working on it. And, but, we wanted to have this wrapped up long before May completed. So there is, again, I'm just reiterating, there is no delay on city part. And then finally, as we come back to it, is what is there, if any, message to council that you would like for us to relay to them? Again, we are your go-betweens. If you give me something, I take it to city manager first and city council second, 100%. It's not filtered. It is, if you say that you want apples, I tell them you want apples. I don't go and say oranges. So, it is reiterated clearly, point to point, exactly as it was asked. Again, I think now the ball's really in your court. We know we want to work on wages and retirement article. That is the two things that, at this point in time that we know that we will be getting into throughout this year.
Okay. So my intention coming here this morning was to be able to deliver you the two major things out of the gate. That way you can return successfully to the council and go, hey, just so you know, this is the two main things, wages and the pension stuff. This is what we got as an initial proposal response from IUPA. So I'm still gonna attempt to deliver that to you today, so you have that knowledge, because I don't think that to not give that to you is gonna aid it. It's just gonna cause more lull, and I don't like that. So we looked at what's going on with the police department, and obviously, we're looking to the effect of, why are we not retaining people? Why are we not getting anyone through the door? And, we passed the point a couple years ago where there was, the internal stressors, the news, media, all that. We're pushing people out. That's fine. We moved through that. So we still continue to see this exodus and this lack of retention. So we began to ask these officers, hey, why are you leaving? Where are you going? Can you tell us what's going on? Is there something we can do as a police department? I know Chief Marino has done a lot in his power to basically say, hey, is there something I can do to keep you here? Is there something I can help you out family wise? Is it a convenience thing? What is the issues? The issues that we were seeing was the consensus of, I can't financially sustain myself here. So we're looking at these officers and we're going, okay, what happened? What happened with you? And one officer's response to me was, it was very reminiscent, and I don't disagree with him. He wasn't presented things correctly. He goes, I look at a number mark, I think, okay, I'm good to go. I know where my head's at. That number seems fine. He goes, but then I'm looking at your pension input. Then I'm looking at insuring my family. And by the time I saw my first check, I almost threw up because I was like, I feel like I made a mistake. I can't do this. I had another officer who's like, listen, I can go anywhere around me and I'm making the same amount of money out of the gate, if not more. So we're looking at that. We're sitting there telling ourselves, okay, well, you can't keep everyone right. We know that. We're not going to keep someone who has this. If you come to this city and you say, hey, I really want to be in charge of a 24/7 SWAT team. Well, that's a goal that we're not able to facilitate, nor did we promise that, nor did we imply that we could, right? So we can't always be that person's long-term goal place. But what we're seeing more is that it's a financial instability problem, that we cannot compete in any way, shape, or form. By the time this officer's here and they're starting to actually receive their monetary gains, they're looking, going, all these, by the time I'm getting my pay, I can't afford this. I can't live here. I can't raise my family here. So we're looking at why these people are leaving and going to these other agencies. So we do follow up, and we follow them up all the way out the door, and even going when they start. There's still a lot of the recruiters here, and the people who do care. They're still reaching out to these officers that left. How is the new agency? How are you liking it? Is there something I can take back that I can give a message of what to change? And there's they're constantly saying it's a financial problem. It's a financial problem. And the city of Port Orange has always demanded a high workload from the officers, A+ tier grade of officer, which they're not wrong for doing that. And I don't want a city that is okay with mediocrity. I will never be okay with that. But at the same time, I cannot pay mediocrity rates. And that's what these officers are saying. You're paying me for a mediocrity type of job, and you're demanding so much workload. I can't deal with this. So that's one problem we looked at, and we're trying to figure out, hey, we're doing everything we can in this county setting. We've gone outside of county. I know the recruiting has gone outside of county. Well, we still have an initial issue of any county that we're going to go outside is I have to convince you to move. I got to convince you I got to convince you to move for the climate, the inflation, the real estate market. How do I convince you to move from your county, which arguably could be making more in of itself? So the pool selection was already going down for us, competing with Daytona Beach and competing with the sheriff's office. We're doing the best we can internally to create an environment where an officer coming through the door wants to be here, and they want to be here because they feel that they're appreciated for the work that they do. The same reason why I stayed and I continued to work here is because I liked knowing that my chief knew my name and that I wasn't a number. But at some point, and we did reach that point, money and benefits is always going to overshadow love and support at some degree. And especially with this newer generation, I've relayed it before in the essence of we're dealing with a mercenary mindset. Whoever is paying the most is who you're going to get. So we have to start being competitive. I have to start going to these recruiting sessions and saying, hey, we can offer you a great position, a great environment, a great community, and very competitive pay. And that person is going to sign up, stay, be happy, work hard, and they're going to continue all the way until they retire here. And that's great for us. It's great for us to get those types of people. So we looked at the current staffing breakdown, the current years of service, and the current exodus. What are our exodus marks? And it's 1 to 3 years is our primary problem. So okay, so let's get people in the door. How are we going to get people in the door? How do I provide the city a number that I feel as a police officer working with you, I have no vested interest to providing you an obnoxious figure. I'm providing you something that, hey, as a person who's interacted with this generation, these officers are from around the agencies. This is the number that I can see the city being able to pull in the top tier that they need and retain them, and not constantly having to purge and waste money on trying to get someone to stay here. So I think we're spending an average of, by the time we're done with their sponsoring their academy, their uniforms, their training, I think we're close to probably a $40,000 to $50,000 mark. We're wasting that money because once that person's gone, it's gone. We didn't get anything back. We don't get to take anything back from that. So we had to look at that appropriately. So I looked at the starting rate, and the starting rate right now is at 2205, and I'm giving a percentage number on the starting rate in the hopes that this number will be competitive and can stay competitive, giving us an edge for multiple years versus 1 year and having to constantly keep backtracking, because we know Daytona Beach Police Department and the Sheriff's Office is going to have a war with each other. But we also know that the smaller agencies around us are making vital changes internally and opening their pays and changing their pay rates as a response of going, hey, I don't want to see a sliding market. I need to stop that, right? I need to stop this leak before it becomes an explosion. And they're doing that. And I have to commend those cities for doing that. That's the proper response. So we put a looking at all the surrounding areas and surrounding figures, I put a 30% on the starting rate, which brings it to, I believe it's $28.67 starting an hour. At that pay rate, that's going to get officers in the door, continue to employ those officers, and they're going to wholeheartedly work here their entire time rather than fizzling out and going, and then us trying to replenish that supply, replenish that experience. Pension side of, obviously we discussed that last year, and we already had this arrangement with Chad Little to get all this stuff studied. I told the officers that this was a patient game, and they have been patient. We spent all of 2022 talking about this, and I was able to tell them that, hey, this is a long-term project, just give me some time. And they have been patient, but they do want these changes, and they continue to want these changes. And it's gonna, so that for the pension side, we're still looking at, and I'm not having any direction of changing that, of the same group study that we already had for those pension changes. So those two major points I wanted to be able to deliver you on this initial meeting. That way you knew, hey, this is always going to be the major fiscal problem, the major fiscal impact. So thank you for telling us initially. That way we can relay that to the city council. There's other articles that we're going to go through. I know Chief and I have been working on the clarifying language from just past practices, I think, that just don't apply anymore. We wanted to apply something in regards to states of emergency and not be left as an interpretable problem where city can be cut and dry. Hey, good, this is it, and it's right here. And the police department can be like, hey, good, we're right here. Everything is easy to read. Everything's the way it's supposed to be. Same with the hour count worked. Hey, this is easy to read. There's no confusion. There's no clouds here. So those things I'm going to work through. We're looking at surrounding agencies specialty rates to entice officers who are coming in the door to partake in a specialty program. Hey, specialty programs, we know they're a retention tool. So we know if we can get an officer, we get staffing, we have an officer who wants to be a specialty program, our success rate to keep that person goes up pretty spectacularly. They usually will commit themselves as PD pretty well once they know they're a part of something particular. So we're looking at specialty rates that entice officers coming through the door and officers at the academy that, well, hey, I really want to do that, and that's a great program. I would love to lock myself into that. So that's great for us. So I'm reviewing stuff like that. Our detectives, I'm going to seek to change their uniform allowances because obviously in the last 3 years, inflation, cost of services, cost of materials, I don't see that they're being compensated correctly for their clothing like they need to be, but that's a minor change in my mind, and running through basically uniforms and some more just legal nitpick changes that have come up. You know, I think when we got done with this contract in 2019 for 2020, I think we did a good job as the union and the city working together to clean up a lot of that language. So I don't foresee us having to go back and forth on a lot of legal type articles like our disciplines, our seniority markers, our promotional markers. We may slightly adjust based on the bargain unit's desire, but I think we'll be able to slide through those pretty quickly. But I did, like I said, I wanted to be able to deliver you the two major points, so that way you had an initially wholeheartedly know where I'm coming from, and it has a real value. This isn't a number that was just thought up and thrown out there. This was carefully looked at, carefully reviewed, and proposed to the internals of the board before we presented to the bargaining unit, and the bargaining unit obviously supported it. We had a couple markers where we based on the expectations of other agencies in the next 1 to 2 years, we had 45% increases on starting, but we knew that we're not going to be in the same category as a sheriff's office and Daytona Beach. So it's not that appropriate for us to put that high of a marker. But we want to be, and I believe the city council has said this in the past, we want to be in that second and third bracket. We want to always hover between that second, third, fourth bracket max. We don't want to drop 5, 6, 7, where is what we are doing.
I think we're tied for 8th or we're 9th in the county right now. And the county has said, or not county, council has said many times on the dais, we want to be at least top 5 paid in the county. They used to say number 2, number 3. Recently they said, well, as long as we're in top 5, we're okay. Well, we're fighting for the bottom right now.
The clothing allowance, one thing that they have to understand too, when you look at the numbers of how much the officers allotted, taxes eats up like 35%. And when you actually get paid, the tax rate on it's so high, the officer only gets a much lesser portion. So if you look at the number, you go, oh, that sounds like a good amount. A lot of that gets taken out of taxes. So when they go to buy a pair of shoes, pants, all that stuff adds up really fast, especially if they damage them on a scene or something like that and they have to replace them. The shoes, they cost the money. One thing I had to add to about, we're still doing the 3-year civil contracts with the new hires, right?
Yes.
So one thing you have to understand, and it puts things into perspective, you have a brand new person that comes to the PD, they sign that 3-year contract, binding themselves to the city, and they go through all the training, and they get here, and they start working, and they quit. So they're paying, it's worth it to them to pay you back to not work here because it's that much of it's off that much, that they're going to shoulder that burden to go somewhere else to make it better for them. So, I mean, that's tough.
What are they paying back to us?
They're paying back training, hourly
Oh,
Cost of
wages,
the school.
equipment.
Okay, those
To the
individuals.
equipment, they pay for the
vests,
vests, the
anything that's
shoes.
specialized to the
Uniforms.
officer.
Yeah.
Yes.
That first year, if they leave the first year, they're paying quite a bit back.
It's like 75%, right?
Yeah, and then it goes down.
And
to
it, by
50.
year, it drops down.
But, I mean, honestly, we're losing people that first year.
But they're paying. Yeah, I mean, that's embarrassing to leave.
From a recruitment side, the people that are currently applying are not people you want being police officers,
Mhm.
and certainly not people you want working for Port Orange.
Right.
Worked here, lived here 14 years. These are not people I want guarding my town, my kids while I sleep. The applicants are unacceptable.
So Jared, I understand what your ask is, and you brought up recruitment, or I'm sorry, retaining, you brought up recruitment. So my ask to you right now is, based on what you're seeing, what could we do today to help with recruitment and retaining?
If you made a change today,
Mm-hmm.
raise the starting $6. And that way I can walk down to the academy and I can slap a brand new brochure in front of all those officers who are being picked out by Daytona Sheriff's Office, surrounding agencies, and go, I beat him, and I'm gonna give you a better place to work, a friendlier place to work, a happier place to work, and I'm gonna give you competitive pay. And I would bet you dollars to all the donuts that I eat in a day that there's gonna be a lot of purging of patches that day. You're gonna get a lot of people who are like, I'm going Port Orange. That was the mindset. This used to be the place to go. When police officers were hired here, this was the place to go. People fought to come here.
Yep.
So how did it change? That's my thing is, well, how did it change?
They used to go through hundreds of applications. I think I beat out 200 and some people for one spot.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
It used to be a lot more.
that
Right.
competitive.
But it was a lot more everywhere, and
Yeah.
now we just struggle to find,
Yeah.
Of course.
people aren't entering the field.
Of course.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger problem than just
Right.
Port Orange, really.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I watched an article regarding the U.S. military.
Yeah.
Same exact situation, and it's the workforce. The workforce is just not going in that service. So how do we change it? So I will relay that to the city manager. And not to say that there might not be something coming out in the future, because obviously, I listen to you all of that. But that's universal. That is just not Port Orange. So so what I would suggest is, because again, you got to think about how we fund this, and I that's my job to get council to have an appropriate millage rate. So I would highly suggest, based on what your ask is start working on that pay scale, Article 28, and how you would take that $6, or your ask, and appropriate it across the board.
Oh, I have
Are you
it.
asking?
Oh, it's done.
hand.
Oh yeah, it's done. Now I have a copy for you. Yeah. And all we did, see, and the beauty, here's the beauty. All that was done was applying the 30% to the starting rate.
Mhm.
We already have that agreed upon step program we did as a city to the police department. We have I think it's it varies between a 1.5 to 1.4% step per each line. And all we did was we applied it to the starting, and we let the steps fall as they fall. That's all we have done.
Okay.
So
I can tell you though, if you manipulate the steps to not provide the same significant raise to the old guys, many people have told me they're going to walk, and then you're going to lose all your institutional knowledge. And with the hiring the way it is, we can't afford to lose the old guys.
Mhm.
we're already limited on institutional knowledge, and I, it's a, I have to think to myself how I say certain things, because I don't want an officer who's watching this, who just got here, for me to portray them as though I didn't want them here, because I know what my recruiters do, and they try to hire the best of the best of the best that they could find. So I know that, and I know the officers that are watching know that I feel that way about them. But we have to remember that as the pool goes down and we're fighting, well, when we have no ability to fight, we brought a dagger to a machine gun fight. And so now we're sitting there going, well, who wants to work here? There we go with, well, now we're getting the people that we don't want as police officers. And, I relayed this. I talked to council. I've talked to Matt Jones about this also. I said, you think that to replace a police officer with 10 years with a police officer with 1 is this change, as though you change out a guy who shovels and changes out the sprinklers, but it isn't. That officer built themselves up to respond to these emergency situations. So we're never on the news for these uses of force, for these malicious events that we see. And when we're looking at these agencies that get caught up in the news and these heavy lawsuits, they go, my God, how did that happen? Well, I can tell you how it happened. He's hired with low to no skill. There was no ability to train him correctly because the people training him had low to no skill, and your institutional knowledge was gone or pushed away. So we have new people training new people. And, I think we're all smart enough to know that I can take all the experience that I've had and I can apply the best I can to a new face, and it will be wholeheartedly done. But if I have a limited amount of knowledge out of gate and I'm now applying it to a new person, what can I apply? I can only apply the little bit that I know, if that's even retained. And that's what I'm asking the council to remember, that when you're wondering why these complaints and the citizens get frustrated because they used to receive a certain level of service and professionalism and investigatory ability, and they're going, hey, why is the cop at my house seem like he's clueless? We have seen that, and I have seen that. It is embarrassing as to be a law enforcement officer and to contradict another agency who's doing something wrong, and then have the citizen go, was that right or wrong? And I've told, that was wrong. That was wrong. They made a mistake. That was wrong. They shouldn't have done that. So we want to avoid those things.
That's a lot of liability, because we do things wrong.
It's a lot of liability.
Lawsuits lose money.
Right. We talk about the financial impact. I mean, financial impact of lawsuit. We know how fantastical it is to go and sue the cities for anything nowadays. You don't grind the sidewalk correctly, you're going to catch a lawsuit from certain people. But that's what we're doing to try to solve this problem, and that's what this is about. This is about solving a problem. I cannot let my people that committed themselves to this police department, 21 years, 19 years. It's got
Not there yet.
16 years,
14
years.
almost 15.
Their institutional knowledge that they're applying to people is, you cannot mend that. There's no way to fast track that. There's a reason why McDonald's uses little screen picture buttons, because anyone can walk in the door and anyone can figure out which one was the cheeseburger. But you can't make an officer figure out day 1, day 10, even day 366. They're not magically going to know how to deal with your autistic rampaging kids that need help and not force, to respond appropriately to a domestic violence, to see the clues of abuse going on in children, to respond appropriately to a sexual assault and not make the victim feel worse. We have to we have to train and we have to retain that person. That person gets to grow and grow and grow and applies that knowledge correctly to the younger generation who inevitably will replace them. So that's what I want to continue to solve that problem. I can't solve the problem when my 1 to 3 year officers are I'm constantly going back to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And as we obviously continue to move, the continued path of the officers who are already committed to be here, that institutional knowledge, well, they're going to continue to fizzle out and retire and leave because they can. So if they didn't apply that knowledge, it's just gone. There's no book of their life that we can go, hey, he did this day, and you should remember that. Can't. It's gone. It is. The recruitment's a big deal.
We have 7 zones in the city, and we have always staff an officer in a zone so they can respond within that geographical area. So it's pretty evident when we change what minimum is, and zones are left with no one in. So, we have people working, but we're at the point where minimum is not even where we have people where they're supposed to be because we don't have them. There's nothing else to say about that. Because we literally don't have the officers. There's a reason why, and now it's changed where one zone doesn't even have to have anybody in it, and that's minimum. That's okay.
Yeah.
Because it's that bad.
The city has remained safe not because
We work hard.
because of luck. It's not because of luck.
Yeah.
We're not any different than any of the geographical areas around us. The reason why this city has remained a safe city is because of the work that we did. It's not because of the trees that were planted, and it's not because of how pretty the sidewalks are. It's because when people come here, they fight to live here. They're overpaying to live here, and we need to note that. I had this discussion with the millage stuff, and I had a small example. I said, when we're in agreement that we have people, we have entities, we have companies that want to build here, they want to expand the, ICI Homes, whoever it is, building homes, we're building restaurants, we're replacing old buildings. That's all good stuff, right? We're seeing businesses and entities and residents leaving other cities to come here, fighting to come here. Seminole County workers and Orlando workers are living in Port Orange because it's safe. They don't mind making the drive. It's safe here. That's what they're concerned about. The law enforcement agencies around us are living here. And I posed that question to the council a couple of years ago, and I've continued to pose to council. Why does all these other agencies live here? We'll ask them. It's safe. Oh yeah, it's safe. I don't want to live in Deltona.
I will add to that, though. Very few of our officers live in town because they can't afford to.
Right.
Very few, any of the employees of our agency live in Port Orange.
They live in
that
apartments.
affects your community policing.
They live in
It's
apartments.
best to live where you
And
work.
that's extremely, the rates have gone so high for apartments now.
Mhm.
I've never seen it. It's more than a house payment just to live in a little 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. It's very expensive.
You're not going to get a consolidation prize from Embry-Riddle. Embry-Riddle's here. They make lots of money. Their students have lots of money to spend. So these apartment complexes have set themselves up for success. Pulling those people in, pulling Palmer Chiropractic. Right over there, the nationwide chiropractic school is 400 yards that way. We have a lot of money that's living in this city that wants to live here because they feel safe. I had a good point that was presented to me, and I agreed with it. You can go out at any time of the night in this city and see people exercising in the dark, walking around, elderly people, young women, young men, joggers. That is not something you just do. I grew up in Daytona. You did not go out for a nightly run. Never did I go out for a nightly run. These people feel safe to do that. At 3 a.m., I have an elderly lady who she does all her walking. she feels safe to walk around at 3 a.m. at Port Orange, you have succeeded. I mean, that's a success. But we can't continue that. We're not going to be able to continue that because I'm providing that lady, she has a false sense of security now because I don't have the officer count like I did. I don't have the officer who's getting out and walking the apartment complexes, making sure people aren't doing something wrong. Don't have the officer ability to go out and cruise through the neighborhoods. They're working on their 7th report of the day. They're working on trying to close out calls constantly and get their things done. So we can't get that same level of prevention. Daytona Beach, and this isn't, I grew up in Daytona. I know what the differences is between prevention and response. Daytona Beach has become a massive response. That's all they can do. They're never going to be able to prevent crime anymore. They're constantly chasing it. So what do you see over there? Constant violent crime. Disrespect for the police departments, disrespect for the cities, disrespect for the businesses. The businesses don't want to be there. Constant bar fights. So we don't have that. New Smyrna Beach, I've talked to some of the bar staff at New Smyrna Beach. They've noticed an influx in it. Bar fights. They have 3 of the bars are considering moving their closing time to midnight instead of 2 because they're like, we can't take the bar fights. We can't have people pulling knives out in our bars. This is not going to be a free-for-all. We're not going to be Daytona, and that's what they say. We're not going to be Seabreeze Avenue. So, we just opened up as a city, we just opened up a great beacon to pull people over to us, that fish restaurant. I think it's great. I think it's great. We took advantage of a waterway. We took advantage of a park setting. We took advantage of incoming business building and high-rise building. And you have an entity who's sitting there going, hey, I'm going to build my business here, and I'm going to make it the beacon here to pull in the bar people, the restaurant people, the money people, the people who want to go out, have a great time over at Shores. There's nowhere to go in Shores. They're coming over here to enjoy themselves. So we have to remember that I got to provide security to that person. I got to provide security to the drunk drivers, but everyone else around the drunk drivers. The people who are going to sleep every night from Embry-Riddle at Palmer College, who are being stalked by criminals. It's easy to tell. I know you're asleep. You have an Embry-Riddle sticker on your car. I'm going to start smashing out windows. Our criminal element is not silly. They're not stupid. They know what they're doing. They move fast. They hit hard. But what they don't like is they don't like to be talked to. And that's what our officers do best. Our officers are that annoying bug that keeps you from doing crime. The guy who's sitting in the back of the apartment complex for an hour had no reason to be there. And you just, hey, how's it going? And then they drive away. I'm never getting a thank you. We never know what that person's mindset was going to be. But we do know he just left the city. And that's what we need to continue to work towards. We need to work towards these high-spirited officers who are coming in here, wanting to do a good job, wanting to hit the streets hard, feel that, and they know that their chief of police is backing them, and they want to know that their city is supporting them, and they feel comfortable when they're enjoying their days off, they enjoy their time with their family, they have the ability to afford a proper residence, they can take care of their family, and they're not killing themselves for, in their mind, the city that doesn't really care.
Thank you. So we will be taking this to council probably in the next couple of weeks. So that, again, I want to make sure, kind of unlike last year, we kept going back and forth between, us and council, executive sessions. So I will relay this directly to them so that we can get a firm idea on the path that we can take on those financial items. Okay.
Do you have that sheet?
I can provide you another one.
Yeah, the file when you actually come up.
Do you have it in a spreadsheet that you could email to us?
Yes.
Did you get the whole study that Ms. Johnson
Yes.
Since that's what we're basing everything on, probably releasing that.
You want me to forward it to them?
I don't see that there's a problem, and it's our basis for our argument. Let them know that up front.
Okay. Do you want me to forward you the survey study that we got from the IUPA union people? What they did was I asked them to take a average counts of wages based on comparative agencies, both in this county and around this county, that would match our demographics. So they provide that to us. They also provided a specialty pay comparison. They also provided the health insurance comparison. So I'm more than welcome to forward that over to you, John, so you can have it, review it, see what you think about it. Granted, when I reviewed it, obviously, we can only go off of what is currently set and agreed to by those agencies. So obviously, I think the Daytona one and the sheriff's office one particularly are skewed, as is Edgewater's, and I believe New Smyrna's,
Right.
because they're all actively changing it. And Orange City.
Atlanta's chief has stated he's going to be number one in the county.
And
He's not
Orange,
sharing his number.
They all keep, yeah, they all.
and Orange City.
I'm gonna be
And
Orange
New
City's
Smyrna.
actively changing theirs too at the moment. So
Well, that's just the dilemma, is that no one's going against what their union contracts say right now.
no, of
You
course,
know, so,
sure.
kind of hard to keep up. Yeah, this is straight 30%. So
Across the board?
across the board. Just so we're all clear, it's against the MOU that was signed on November 16th of 21. Well, thank you, Jared. Everyone else, appreciate it.
Thank you.
And then,
When-
so let me
when
look
do
at
you
my
want us-
calendar real quick,
Okay.
because I noticed that I was sitting in here, Monica was hitting my calendar with everything, so.
Wouldn't be bad to go ahead and
Yep.
set a few future dates if we could, just to get them
That's
locked
fine,
in,
yeah.
so we make sure we don't
If,
run out of time.
If Attorney Lambert and Mr. Totten
So what we were wanting to do is to try and set meetings for every 3 weeks.
Okay.
So if we can do, calendars, so that every 3 weeks we have something hitting, then,
are 3 weeks would be basically
the
April
14th.
13th, 14th.
Correct.
Mhm.
Okay.
And we have no issue meeting we have no problem meeting as early as 8:30.
Okay. I'm not opposed to the 14th. I don't know.
I'm good on the 14th. I will say that 8:30 is too early for me. I have to drop kids off, and my wife has.
If 10's fine, 10 seems.
I can't do 10. I can do 1:30
Is that fine?
on the 14th.
Okay, sure. All right, that's fine. So let's set it, we'll set it for that then.
And then
May 5th.
so it'd have to be the
Cinco de Mayo.
following week.
Is it Cinco de Mayo?
So I just have a
1:30?
scheduling conflict on May 5th. Could we do kind of,
May 4th.
no, can't do the whole week. I'm out on vacation.
If you want.
Could we do the Monday, May 8th at 10 a.m.? And then,
I can be available. I just don't want. Okay.
One of us.
yep, so going back to, so we try and keep on the 3-week scheme, the
At
8th
what
being
time?
out
10
of
a.m.
10 a.m.
Okay.
But then could we do the 25th
It's a Thursday.
10 a.m. May 25th at 10 a.m. June 16th at 10 a.m.
I was gonna make a joke, but
Okay, you can.
it's my holiday.
It's what?
It's a holiday. I can't.
What
do
is the holiday?
Juneteenth?
Oh,
Oh, gotta make sure we're not.
City.
Well,
I was
Is
gonna
the
say
city-
city hall
That's not a city
closed.
holiday.
Yeah, we are.
Is that a city holiday?
They
Yes,
the name.
we're
they
closed.
added it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
See?
haven't,
Caught it.
we
That's not
haven't
even
put
on-
it
it's
on
not even
our,
showing up on my calendar.
yeah, we're officially closed.
So you want to do
You
June
approved it.
15th?
Can we do, let me see what this one. Can we do the 15th at, 2? July 6th at 10?
We better have it figured out by then.
Do what?
was gonna say, we're getting pretty
We gotta
far
have
out.
it figured out by then.
Well, this,
That would be
when
nice.
we're doing the fiscal things first, so if we need to
Right.
continue after
Right,
that. we can
right,
submit
that's
that.
Right, yeah, so, yeah,
To get the mill or
Yeah.
get the
Mhm.
budget tied.
I
Yeah.
think this is as far as we need to go at this point in terms of dates, because, let's be optimistic. We can be done.
John, I would love to be done today.
Okay, this here, sign, right?
Yeah.
You're like you used car salesman.
You-
There you go.
I-
Sign it. We'll take it.
33%.
What's
it gonna take?
I've continued to.
You can't keep having me go back to my sales manager now.
Hey, listen. Oh, I love the sales manager. You've never seen me buy a car. It's the most infuriating process for them.
And one day I got up and just walked right into Randy Dye's office,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, ugh.
The last time I bought a car, I said, you see that right there? I said, that's your Google review. I said, every time you walk in here and you call me friend, I'm putting a star down. And they started getting frustrated with me. And I was like, stop acting like we're friends.
Okay. Again, thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank y'all.
That's why I drive my car for 10 years.
Have a nice
I just hate